welcome to my YouTube channel, Art Classes My Way. And I am going to let you guys in on a little secret. I am going to be doing my husband's Christmas gift today. This is, and since we moved into the new house, he has a room all to himself, just like I have a room just for my art. And I want to put something very special up on the wall for him. And for those of you who may or may not have figured out, we are pretty big gamers. We do D&D, we do board games, which I'm just getting into. When you're in a family, single child, and your mom and dad have had like anywhere from 8 to 6 siblings apiece, they're typically already board gamed out by long before they ever had me. So board games, unless the horses learn to roll dice, yeah, I spent most of my time just doing stuff on the farm. That was my board games. But one of the other big things me and my husband are into is video games, and I am going to do the logo. And trust me, it's killing me. I'm going to do the logo to his absolute favorite video game of all time, Chrono Trigger. I tell you what, I went to college. My emphasis was in graphic design, and I took quite a few typography classes on top of that. Absolutely everything about this logo is so wrong. But to keep you guys informed and let you know basically all the ins and outs of this project, it's fine to do a project like this for yourself, for a member of your family. You can pretty much do something like this for anybody, but you can't charge money for it. This is the exact logo of, I mean, it's a trademarked logo. It is a trademarked video game. It is a Squaresoft. I'm pretty sure that was before it became Square Enix. This is a property owned by Square. They own all the rights and titles to it. I'm not making any money off of this. And if you come up with your own characters and your own themes and things like that, nobody gives a hoot. It's pretty much your intellectual property at that point. But if you're thinking, oh, well, I'll do this to make money and I'll do children's bedrooms or, you know, what have you, and, you know, I can do this for money, you can. But if one of your clients says, I want Winnie the Pooh and I want Tigger, it can't be some sort of knockoff. It has to be those characters. If Disney finds out, your butt is in a sling. You are SOL, and they keep track of that kind of stuff. So always keep that in mind. If it's something that is already big and well known and famous and so on and so on and so on, you can't really do it for money. And that's why I'm doing this for my husband. It's for him. It's a gift. I'm not making a dime off of it, and kind of giving you guys an idea of the process of using a projector. Now I have my Artography tracer projector, and it's a great little thing, and these guys are pretty expensive. Any of these projector tracers are super expensive, but they are also very easy to operate. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the light off, and we'll turn the tracer on, and there we have it. Now some of it's running off to the side there. That's going to be really easy to line up, and at this point, I do hope that's bright enough for you guys. I wonder if well, hopefully I can brighten it up for you in editing. But there's the logo. So first thing I'm going to do, one little thing to let you know about, this wall does have wallpaper on it. The previous owners, or even the owners before them, we found out this house has had a lot of owners. They just painted the wallpaper that was here. And don't do that. I mean, yeah, it may be a lot of work, but you are leaving a lot of work for somebody else to do. And it's practically impossible to get wallpaper off of the wall that has paint over it. It's so much better just leave it unpainted and let somebody else take it off than it is to paint it, because it's practically never going to come off. So I'm going to have this texture that I'm also going to be fighting while I am doing this. And because it's on wallpaper, the wallpaper is stuck to the wall really, really well. So there's not much I can really do about that, short of, honestly, it would probably be easier just to re-drywall the wall. Just the thought of it just kind of fills me with dread. So yeah, well, let's go ahead and get started. And this particular step in the process is pretty easy. Let me see if I can't adjust this. Now there is a slider on the front of my projector. Nope. That allows you to make things come in and out of focus. Much better. All right. Now, and also what I mean by the typography in this is just terrible. Pretty much the word trigger looks like it was, like they just used Word. If any of you remember back when Word had it, you know, it used to have that little feature where you could like do all these neat things with actual words and your title, your headers, and different things like that. And I found out actually how you can do that today. What you have to do is save a file for the last time Word did that program, and I think it's a 93 save. So save it as a 93 Word project, reopen it, and you then Word art will be back as actual Word art, not what it is today. There's something for you. But it's like somebody put the word trigger in one of those things, but for some reason they destroyed the kerning between those two G's. And I think they were trying to get something cool, but they were trying to do too many cool things at one time with, you know, the sway of the word trigger, and then on top of that having that double G. And who knows, maybe they're even a little bit offset from each other to create visual interest. So then there's 3 things they're doing to create visual interest in that one word, and it's just a big, awful mess. And to show how much I love my husband, and even though the game's great, there's nothing wrong with the game. It's a great game if you can get a hold of it. Play it. I recommend it. It's a wonderful RPG. And all the artwork is done by the same artist who does Dragon Ball. And I keep teasing my husband that, and you know, I grew up with Dragon Ball Z, and How many times can you watch Radix take over the world over and over and over again? Because as soon as Goku comes to Namek, you can't. Starts all over again. It was obnoxious. For those of you that don't understand what I'm saying, just ignore me. I'm just rambling. But basically, that artist, he has made an amazing living as far as human characters. He is selling the exact same character over and over and over again. He just puts different hairstyles, different hair color on them, and then they're a whole new character. It's amazing. I mean, that's not entirely what he's doing, obviously, but it's an oversimplification. It's just, I think it's funny. So I got myself a mechanical pencil here, and I think mechanical pencils are best for this kind of work. I get a nice fine point. You can also get a light point, and in the case of my texture problem I have going on here, it can get down into those grooves. So I'll just get the overall basis down, and then we will paint it. And then I can actually look at the photo I got underneath my tracer to make sure that I'm even, because I have no idea what this is up close. So once I can pull that out from underneath there, I can find out. So I've gotten to the point where I need to move this guy over. I highly recommend that what you do in this case, you put your hand on the paper, and pretty much you need to slide it over. And then you're going to have to go back and forth, and try to line it up with whatever you have there. This is the most difficult part to do by yourself. And to pay the respects due to the creators and so on, and for my own artistic ethics, I am going to put the trademark logo down here in the corner. Now I might put this in as a watered down, so that way it doesn't like completely pop off the wall. You know, it's not going to be in the black and the red of the actual logo itself, but I'm going to make sure it is there. This is more, again, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm just doing this out of love for my husband. His favorite video game, and then he can, it's just low enough that when he puts the TV right here, he can still see his favorite thing. And I think I still have enough room that I could, we'll see how far I get. I could put his favorite character over here in this area, or even leave at least this much room away from the wall. I could even put his character behind the logo just a little bit. And his absolute favorite character from that series is Frog. So I have left myself enough room. Maybe that'll be next year's Christmas. We'll see how far I do get with this. Now, my wall, depending on the surface that you're doing, and I'll go ahead and turn on the lights here. Depending on the surface that you end up doing for this kind of a project, again, because this is wallpaper, it's painted wallpaper, it's just going to be like putting paint over the top of paint. It doesn't need a whole lot of primer involved. If it's bare drywall, yeah, it's going to need a primer coat, or it's going to need a first layer in some way, shape, or form. If you're doing concrete, that's going to take a different kind of research to go with that. And there are special coatings, like especially if you're doing a kid's room or something along those lines, I would highly recommend high gloss paints for that. Mostly because, you know, kids, they throw things get splattered, icky stuff. It just makes everything so much easier to clean the walls off with just a simple wipe if it is, you know, nice and glossy. That's why normally when it comes to walls, if it's a wall that has a lot of flaws on it, you know, very, very bad patch jobs done to it, the best paint job to do is a matte. As matte as you can get, it helps hide a lot of the flaws. And if you're doing something like kitchen cabinets, and you can see that wall's flawed, If you're doing something like kitchen cabinets, then I would recommend, or even baseboards, any kind of trim, I would recommend a high gloss or shellacking it to a nice glossy finish, because that makes it so much easier just to clean than anything else. So I'm going to leave this part of it here. I'm going to go in and make sure that I got all the fine little details that I pretty much need, and then we will get into painting it. So I will see you guys. Craft paint, it is not going to take in the first coat, and it might not even take in the second coat. It looks like, especially with this black, it's going to take up to 3 coats. But a large part of that is, one, I'm using it because I have a ton of that black, and I have several little things of this paint. I'd rather use it up than my good, expensive acrylic paints. Plus, even if it is a little bit on the drier side, it's a lot easier to take a wet piece of paper towel or toilet paper and just get in there and get some of those little oopsies and get them taken care of really fast. Because it is a cheaper paint, it kind of gives you that freedom. Now, once it's all good and dry, it's, you know, obviously it's done, it's there. You could potentially scratch it off, but with, like I said, with the texture of this wallpaper, that's not going to be a thing. Like I said, it's going to probably take me 3 good coats to get it down and get it looking nice. So I got quite a bit of work cut out for me, and I'm glad I decided to start this early. So you can use better, there are better paints out there that can take in 1 coat. Don't be fooled. Just primering your paint or your wall is not necessarily mean that it's going to get covered in 1 stroke. What I am doing is, as I put down my first layer, I am making sure that there is like a well of paint as I'm moving through, where the paint is built up on either side of my paintbrush, and I will leave it there along the lines. So that way I don't have to get back in there and do the exact same detail work. That part's pretty much dried and it is black. So I just have to worry about filling in the grayish sort of areas. It makes it work out a whole lot better. And it's been working just fine. And I can paint through a lot faster, which, because I'm painting through faster, I gotta wait for it all to get good and dry before I try to put on my second or my third layer. We've gotten to the point where it is time to work on the clock hands. I know everything was sped through really fast, but I pretty much told you what I was doing throughout all that. It was just drawing it all on the wall and then coloring in the lines, pretty much. So now with the watch hands, I am going to use masking tape to get those super duper straight lines. I'm fairly decent on a curve, a little iffy with the straight lines part. So I'm going to put this masking tape where the hands and the stalk of the hand is going to be, tape that off, and with the exception of where the T is, it's all going to be painted in gold to go along with the logo itself, which is gold, black, and red. I don't think I'm going to go and do the red part of it. Once I get the gold part done, I think I'm going to call that it. This has taken up a lot of time. Even though it's all been condensed down to a few minutes, this whole project has probably taken me about 10-15 hours. So yeah, so I need to get to other things. I'm making more videos for you guys, but I thought this would be something kind of fun to enjoy. And if my husband does decide he does want his favorite character painted off to the side at the end of the R there, then maybe we'll cover that in a separate video, doing characters specifically. So we won't deal with that too much. And I'm going to go ahead and get the taping this guy up and getting him ready for the last little bit. It probably did take me about with the paint that I used, plus the texture of the wallpaper that has already been painted up there, that probably took me about 5 to 6 coats. There's a good chance you won't have that problem when you're doing it unless you're using, or you're painting over a textured wallpaper that's already up there. Bring more like. So I'm going to go ahead and get this taped up, and you guys enjoy, just to share with you guys, and things might seem out of order in the video because of this, but I wanted to warn you. I did mention that I was going to use the tape to tape certain things off in the clock hands. And I have found out it could possibly be just the metallic. Just in case, it's always better to be cautious than sorry. But when I went to take the tape off, if you let the paint completely dry, it is a good idea to have an X-Acto knife or something sharp, because when I went to peel that paint off, or to peel the tape off, it was taking the paint along with it, and it was all going to come off like a latex layer, kind of looked a little plasticky and so on. So it was just all going to lift right off of there. So be very careful when you're removing your tape. I am going to be removing my tape after the gold parts when it comes to the decorative element in the arms of the watch hands themselves. I'm letting them dry just a little bit before I actually take the rest of the tape off. It's not 100% dry, but it's dry enough that the black that I put down, it shouldn't puddle or do anything silly from that point. So just wanted to let you know as going through this. So I did a little bit of practicing before I decided to turn on the camera, and pretty much in this part, what it really looks like is somebody took a photo of an outdoor space with sticks and leaves and things, turned it into a monochromatic photo, which is just a black and white photo, so very sharp, contrasting on and off. And then they turned the white to gold and left the black black. And I don't want to sit and replicate something like that to a T. So what I did was basically take saran wrap, I put a little bit of gold paint in it, squished it around inside the saran wrap. Probably what would do better for a lot of people is to get it to where it's not so thick. I ended up putting it on a little bit too thick, so I had to kind of move it around. And I did tape off areas just to, make my job go a little faster. Now what I'm going to do is get something wet and clean up all the outer areas real quick. One moment. And that is super easy to do with just a piece of some toilet paper and water. And man, this gold paint dries quick. Actually, I might need a sponge. Black didn't give me nearly as many problems. And to try to get this branchy tree look that was in the picture, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through here and try to take up some of these larger areas and just kind of erase some of it. And I got some areas where it's thicker, the paint is pretty dry, but where it's really mounded up, if I go to swipe and get rid of some, it gets rid of the mounded up part, but then it leaves behind the part that's got a good amount of drying to it. And that's a really nice look, trying to replicate what's a kind of in the actual logo itself. Just do that throughout here. Because the parts that are drier are going to want to stay dry, and the parts that are still got a little bit of liquid to them, they're going to want to come up. Or I'm going to have to come back in here and probably actually repaint over the top of this gold. I just got a little too silly with everything, so that's all right. Now, just before you guys think that I ended up waiting for a certain amount of time to pass before starting this, and not so, I pretty much just came in through here with the saran wrap and patted it on, and I've only just had enough time to talk to you a little bit, turn my camera on, and then get started in the wiping process. So this gold paint does not take much time at all. And I'm just wiping up all the excess glitteriness from where I've wiped. Now I am going to try to save a bunch of this tape. That's also part of why I didn't completely just cover all of this and cover all of this up here. I will use this for my watercolors. These longer strips, these itty bitty short strips, they're gone, so I won't worry about them too much. But these longer bits are perfect for my smaller watercolors, and since it's almost December, I have plenty of time until Christmas to just come in here and grab pieces and use them up as I need to use them up. Now, I'm sorry if the video quality here isn't fantastic, but what I want to show you is you can see all these little pencil lines around my R here. And what I basically wanted to show you is with the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, that's what I use. You can just go in here and get rid of a lot of my pencil lines, but you got to be careful because he will, whatever chemicals are in this guy, he's going to want to take your paint off too. But especially with this texture, you won't be wasting as much eraser trying to erase your silly pencil lines and such. And you can come in here and clean up some things. Squeak. Let's see what the dry end does. But yeah, overall, the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, honestly, use the dry side. It still does the job of getting rid of the pencil line, and it seems to be a lot less likely to get rid of your paint. Right on. So, and anybody who's never messed with a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, it does degrade as you use it. It's not just because I'm using it on a textured wall. That will make it degrade faster, but that's just kind of how the product functions. I had to teach my mom that she didn't understand what was going on and why it wouldn't clean, because she never really pushed down to make it clean before. And she just thought that the product just didn't work, that it was a bunch of baloney. She just lightly wiped it back and forth, and like, no, you gotta be like an eraser, you gotta get down in there. But it's a great little product. I don't know what kind of chemicals are in it, but it's cool. So I'll give you guys a wider view here, so pardon my reach. And yeah. So this is, I know the original, and I'll show you the original logo here. I know the original has a bunch of red in it and everything, but I've decided just for saving my paint and not going out and buying more paint. This logo is very, very busy. It's got so much going on. I find just to mature it up a little bit for my husband, and plus I really got other things I gotta get on to and moving on to and what have you. I only have so much time in the day, and he's getting suspicious. But I think this ought to work just great. And 1 second here, and there's the overall effect, because there's his TV in his room. This is all his room. I'm going to do a close-up detail of the gold that I put in here, and then I'm going to leave you guys alone. I'm sorry if this was super boring. Just a couple of little sum-ups. When I was doing this, some of the little cheat hacks that I discovered as I was going, like I said, the paints were kind of watery. Not the gold so much, but that gold reacts, or the metallics, seem to dry a whole lot faster, so you've got to be on it. The black, however, I'm and probably just the regular paints. Now, I know white's a little bit this way. I've never seen a black behave the way this black has. I've seen white do it before. But the white or the blacks are kind of watery, and maybe the overall craft paint section is that way. Can't tell you for certain because I only messed with 2 colors here. But kind of what I did was, to start off with, I let it dry out on a paper plate for a little bit, so that way the consistency just got a little bit thicker. I didn't let it completely dry, obviously. Pardon me. It never completely dried. I just let some of that, just let a little bit of that liquid evaporate. And I also put a piece of saran wrap, which is a saran wrap I later used. I covered the plate with my saran wrap to keep it from drying out too fast or unexpectedly. And it worked out really well. And when I went into, I only used duct tape there at the very end, not duct tape. I only used that at the very end to try to block paint and try to make things go faster. But I knew for me to tape off every single letter in this was going to take way longer than me just hand painting it with, in the pencil marks. So all I did was with that, to help myself go a little faster, I took a smaller paintbrush and pretty much pushed hard, and the way that you normally don't paint with a paintbrush, I pushed a little bit harder so that way there was a mound of black along pencil marks. And then when that dried, that would dry completely black. But then it would act like a buffer to keep the paint, to try to help keep any painting that I did afterwards with a larger paintbrush, try to keep the bristles contained a little bit, kind of like a little bit of a fence. That made everything go so much faster, I tell you what. That's something to possibly keep in mind. And anything else? Now, I already mentioned how fast that gold does dry. The Mr. Clean Eraser, we both found out at the same time that Mr. Clean Eraser is going to eat the paint. So don't get it wet. If you're just trying to get your pencil lines off, just leave it dry and then go in there with the pencil lines and you'll be predominantly fine. Now, Mr. Clean does leave behind like this chalky white residue. When you're going to get rid of that could be whatever is in the Mr. Clean eraser. And if you re-wet that, be very careful, because that could be whatever is eating away a little bit at the black paint, or my black paint, whatever paint you're using, it could kind of eat away at it just a teeny tiny bit. So keep that in mind when you're going to get rid of that, and trying to avoid it getting someplace you don't want it to be, period. Wait for everything to get good and dry before you use the Mr. Clean Eraser, because you don't want to accidentally get yourself a wipe off paint that you don't want wiped off. And it looks like he will get rid of, like if you get a little bit of paint outside of the lines or outside of where you want it to be, it looks like he will help out with that as well. Anything else I can tell you guys about doing something large like this? Again, once I show my husband, it may be next year's Christmas gift, or it might be his birthday. His birthday is in February. I was thinking about possibly even painting his favorite character from this video game in this big blank spot at the end of the R, which is Frog. But I want to talk to him about it and see if that's exactly what he wants for his room. The very last thing I want to leave you guys with is, with the gold paint, I forgot to mention this, is that don't let it if you're going to use masking tape like I did, don't let it completely dry on you. And that might hold true for just about all of the craft paints and acrylic paints in general. Don't let it completely dry on you when you're using it to mark off areas you don't want it to bleed into. Because if you let it dry completely, you're going to run the risk of that when you take the tape off, that basically the paint acts like a latex layer and it just wants to, whatever paint that you just put down and dried over the top of your masking tape is going to want to come off with it. So just keep that in mind as well. Anytime I've ever done this, I've never used tape before, but I've never had like super straight lines like the clock hands before, so that was a new experience for me. So I'm going to give you a little close-up. Here's a close-up of the gold effect that I did. And in order to get this effect, you're going to have to be pretty quick on your toes. I put this on with saran wrap. I just squeezed the gold paint onto the saran wrap, kind of squished it around a little bit. I would recommend, if you're wanting more of a plasticky kind of texture, go super light with the paint, because otherwise, if you have too much, it's just going to ruin the overall texture of the plastic if you have too much paint on it. If you're trying to go for this effect, it's okay if there's a little bit of paint on it. It's okay if there's a little bit of a thicker areas of paint. That's where these areas came into play, these big open blank areas. Now, I let this dry just a little bit, and it will dry fast. This metallic paint dries way faster
than the black and probably the regular paints just in general, to keep in mind. But I let this dry a little bit, to the point where you can tell that like the thicker areas of paint, the more mounded up paint is the only thing that's wet. And then I just went over it with some wet toilet paper. Regular napkins, rolled paper would probably be better. Mostly it just won't leave behind the little bits of toilet paper that you'll have to clean off later, like in here. But I mean, either way it works just fine. And plus, since I have this stupid texture, it's also kind of going to eat away a little bit at the toilet paper too, so that's another part of the reason. But I just went over it with the wet toilet paper, wiped off what was left of the wet paint, and it gave me this really cool kind of watermarky effect going on. So if you want that kind of an effect, that's how you do it. It's pretty easy. And again, with metallic paints, and you can see where my masking tape tried to pick up along the points. I did a lot better with the shaft of the arm, because I took the masking tape off before it had 100% dried, so it ended up working a lot better. But if you want, again, you want this texture, you put paint onto saran wrap, squish it around in the saran wrap, put it on. It's okay for the thick areas to be thick. It's okay for the thick areas to end up being thick, because then you get these really cool little watermark areas when the thinner stuff is completely dry, and then you come in and wipe off the excess wet stuff. Let me show you up in here. And I'm waiting for this to get good and dry before I come in here with my Mr. Clean eraser and erase the rest of my pencil lines. So, and the tape ended up coming over just a little bit on these two guys rather than cutting it, but from a distance you really can't tell, and it's no big deal to come in here with a paintbrush and just drag some of these areas over just a little bit, to kind of, if you don't want that at all to be there. And you can see this wide areas where the Mr. Clean eraser was a little bit earlier. That's the residue that it leaves behind. But I do hope that you did learn some stuff. I do hope I still kept the art in it for you. And I do hope that you had a lot of fun, and that you learned some new stuff. Maybe this is going to be your thing. I'd love for it to be your thing. I want everybody to find their thing, and not that way. But anyway, please like, comment, favorite, subscribe, do all those things that you wonderful people do. Also, the comment section is made for leaving comments. Also, questions. If you want me to do something particular, or you have any questions about something, and hopefully I'll be able to answer you. And on top of that, maybe I'll even make you a video just specifically on your question. That's the whole point of the channel. I do painting, I do jewelry making, I do a very large variety of things. And next year there's going to be some more paintings and stuff. I'm getting back into that part of it all. Acrylics, watercolors. I do have some oils. I probably would need to buy more oil paints to do too many oil classes, but I can do it. I do have all the materials. It's just they won't be great big paintings. And love to help you guys with whatever it is that you want to learn, because it's what I'm here for. I also have a Patreon if you want to help out my channel and helping me maybe get better software, get better lighting, and obviously you will go at the end of the videos as being a supporter of my channel. I guess that needs to be mentioned. I didn't mention it in my Patreon or anything because I thought that was kind of a given. I mean, that's just common sense politeness. But yeah, I guess it does need mentioned, and I do need to change that. And also by investing in my channel, you are also investing in the classes that I can possibly teach you in the future. I would eventually someday like to get an anvil and a forge going, do an actual one of the things I got into metalsmithing for was because of knife making, because the sculpture class, they did a lot of the same stuff and probably more what I needed to do, but they wanted things on a great big sculpture scale. And I didn't want to make anything necessarily that big, so I thought, well, if I do the jewelry classes, then I can make things on a much smaller scale. Well, the teacher, I was a weirdo. I don't think she really ever liked me, and she doesn't have to like me, but her and her little entourage were quite happy making fun of any beliefs I had and so on. So I just like, all right, fine, I'll just do what you want me to do. She wire weaving, by the way, according to her, is just crafts. It's not jewelry making. It's like bullshit. Sorry for the language, but I always hated that. I think crafting, and do let me know in the comments section, what do you think about crafting versus art? I think crafting refers more to a skill level than necessarily a particular area of study. Like, for instance, quilting. I would consider that an art as opposed to a craft. And then you have crocheting and knitting.
depending on how elaborate some of those people get with that kind of stuff, oh my god. I don't have patience for it. I know I don't have the patience for crocheting too much. That's just me though. But some of the levels that people can get with crafting and crocheting, that's art, I feel. And especially when it comes to wire work, anything I ever showed my teacher, how do I go about trying to learn to do this? How do I go about trying to do this? She never had an answer for me. She wasn't. I don't think that she was necessarily not a good teacher. I just think that, one, she was more interested in being an artist for artists, rather than somebody who actually makes money and sells their work. And when you're a professor at college, yeah, your house bill's already paid at that point, and then you can just do whatever the heck you want. But yeah, I don't know where I was going to go with that, but anyway. And I don't think my kind of art and what I viewed as art, the fantasy and things like that, it wasn't her thing, so why would she know how to do it when it's something that she is not interested in? So, I mean, I gotta be fair about all that. Now, some of our critiques weren't exactly fun, because that was just flat out making fun of somebody and their own beliefs, but, you know, whatever. So, I do hope you guys like this, and leave me something in the comments section. We got plenty to talk about, some discussions open. Also, would any of you be interested in possible critiques? It's something every artist has got to get used to. It's something every artist has to go through. It's a part of being an artist, and I do feel that there are a lot of people out there that don't know how to take critiques, criticism, and it's something we should all learn. So that also in the comments section. Yeah, and if none of you leave me any kind of comment, I know you didn't make it this far through the video, and shame on you, because this is where things get weird. I suppose that's probably not what you're really here for, though, either, is it? So yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out, guys, and have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.